This position looks about as hopeless as you can get for white. Not only is white down the two rooks for the rook and the queen, black also has two extra pawns, and on top of that, white's king is stuck in the corner, about to be checkmated by any number of moves from black, here and here and here. All of these are checkmating threats that white has to kind of watch out for. These pawns are going down the board in this direction. As bad as it looks, white has an incredible idea to save the game and get a draw. If you would like to pause, there is only one move that saves the game for white. See if you can figure out what it is. Well, if you had a chance to look at that, the only move that white can play here is the move rook to g7 check. And the idea behind this move is it's setting up a little trick depending on what black does next. So, for example, if we look carefully, the king actually only has two places, king to f2 and king to f3. If black plays king to f3, this one is easy for white. If you would like to pause, what should white play? You had a chance to look at that. The move is rook to g3 check, which skewers the king and the queen, so that if the king tries to step out of the way, you would simply take the queen for free. So black has to take you. But then you follow up with rook to d3, which is a fork. And you say, but the rook's undefended, but we don't care because if black takes, guess what? This is a stalemate because we can't move our king anywhere, but we're not in check. Notice the pawns are taking away the squares from the king. So that's kind of a key idea to keep in the back of your mind, right? This stalemate idea. Okay, but black, if they're smart, they're not going to go to f3. They're going to go to f2 and avoid this move, right? Because now if we try to put, check this way, black just takes it and laughs at white because now, you have to take this and it's black wins. So on king to f2, what do we play here as white? If you had a chance to look at that, the move is rook to f4 check. Now, the reason we have to do this rook and we can't just keep going with this guy is because black will play king to e3. And you might be thinking, but Nelson, isn't that the same trick? We go for the skewer, we go for the fork, we get a stalemate, except it's not a stalemate anymore because now the king is too far away to defend the pawn and we can take it and we have to, and then black checkmates us in a few moves. So you can see the importance here as black's king gets away from the defense of this pawn, we kind of lose that stalemating idea, right? So that's kind of a problem that we have to keep in the back of our mind. And that's why this move doesn't work, okay? So you have to play this rook. All right, so black plays the move king to e2, just trying to sidestep and get out of the way. Now, if you say, well, why can't they go to e3 and we have the same problem? Well, now we actually can just do this, lures the king back, and now when the king takes, look where it is. It's defending the pawn. So that's why black says, okay, I don't want to go up to the third rank where I'm going to get, skewered and in line with my queen. So black says, okay, it's fine. I'll just go over to e2. So what do we play now as white? You had a chance to look at that. We can't go check here because of the queen. So because of that, we have to go with this rook. Rook to e4 check. And now black plays king to d1. Kind of the same idea, just trying to get away from the rooks. And if you would like to pause, what should white play next? If you had a chance to do that, now we have to alternate and switch to this rook to throw in the check. And you might say, well, why don't we just keep going with this one? Here is what will happen. Black simply sidesteps. And yes, we can keep going with this one, but once the king gets to b2, you don't have a good follow-up. Yes, you can come down here with check. The king is just going to go to the corner and watch this. You can't go here because the queen, and if you do this, black can simply block with their rook if they want. It's probably the easiest thing, and they avoid all of the tricks, okay? So a little bit confusing as to which rook you need to use, but just hang with me. We haven't even gotten to the main feature of this position yet. So rook to d7 check now is the move, and black plays rook to d6. Now this is kind of black's main idea here. Once they get the king to the d file, they block the check with the rook, and it really looks like white is out of tricks. Like you don't really have any good checks. You could go here, black's going to just trade. Here, black's just going to take it. What do you think white should play in this position? If you had a chance to do that, the move is simply trading the rooks because there's something very, very important about black's queen on d6. What is it? If you had a chance to look at that and you remembered what I said earlier about this pawn over here, notice the queen is now defending that pawn. What does that mean? That means, again, our king is stuck in the corner. We can't move. And it opens up the possibility of stalemate tricks. So with that in mind, that's a really big hint. But what move should white play next? If you had a chance to look at that, there's really two that should come to mind, here and here. But the only correct one is rook to e1 check, because if you go here, the problem is that when the queen takes your rook, it also moves away, and you no longer have the stalemate trick, and you have to take and you lose, okay? But if you go to e1 check and the king takes you, well, then it's a stalemate, and the game is a draw. However, we're not done yet, because black can see what's happening and says, well, guess what? I'm not going to take your rook. I'm going to go to c2. And now it's back to us. What move should we play here as white? Now, go ahead and tell you it is a check. You have two options. One is wrong and one is right. And the idea behind why might not be super easy, but see if you can figure it out. Which move should we play as white? You had a chance to look at that. The correct move is rook to e2 check. So congratulations if you found that, and hopefully you understood the reason why. And didn't just flip a coin. Rook to c1 check looks like it does the same thing. It's almost like, what's the difference? Like, why does it matter? Well, there's a very important difference. Let me show you why this doesn't work, and then we'll come back and talk about why rook e2 does work. Okay, so rook to c1 check. Obviously, black doesn't want to take it because it's a stalemate, right? We talked about that. Queen's defending the pawn. But what black can do is actually run with the king. King to b3, and you can go check again, and the king can keep running. And eventually, the king's going to loop around and come over here and hide behind the queen. Now, some of you might be saying, but Nelson, that doesn't matter, because you can still go rook c7 check, and you still keep chasing the king, right? Watch what black plays now. King to e6. A great move, and here's the point. If you continue with your rook checks, they take with the queen, and look at that. It's no longer a stalemate. They've given you an option. Game goes on, and you lose. And also, similarly, if you try to do something clever like this, same idea. They just take you, and guess what? The pawn is no longer defended. It opens up an option for white. So your stalemate tricks disappear as soon as black, performs this maneuver and gets the king to e6. Okay, so now let's go back, all the way back here when we had this critical moment, and let's talk about rook to e2 check and see what's going on here. So rook to e2 check, and black, of course, is going to try to do the same thing. Run with the king up the board and hide behind the queen. So it would look something like this. Check, check, check. They're going to run, check, and check king here. Now, some of you might be saying, Nelson, this is the same thing. You're going to go here with the rook. They're going to go to e6, and you lose, right? You just talked about that. What's the difference? Well, before I tell you, if you would like to pause, what is the difference? Well, if you had a chance to look at that, hopefully you noticed the difference is that the rook is on c2 instead of c1. And you might say, Nelson, why do I care? Here's why you care. Rook to d2, pinning the queen and the king. And when the queen captures, guess what? It's a stalemate again, because now the queen is on the second rank, which is crucial because it defends the pawn. If we were to try the same idea before, all the way back here, right? Sorry. Let me see if I can do the right line. Here, blah, 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 blah. If we go here, it doesn't work. Queen just takes it with check, and we have to come up here. Okay, so that is why rook to e2 check right here was the only critical move, and then bam, you force the stalemate. There's really nothing that black can do. I mean, they can let you take the queen, but then you just take this with your king. It's a draw, however you look at it. Super nice idea of putting the rook on the second rank and just continuing to chase the king around until eventually you get the pin. Hope you guys enjoyed that one. Congratulations if you saw the idea of getting the rook to the second rank. Not an easy one, but hopefully still enjoyable. See you guys next time. As always, thanks for watching. Stay sharp, play smart, and take care.